And we're back with another episode of the AC Milan Zone podcast. I'm joined not by my usual comrade Oscar, who is somewhere between Sweden and Switzerland on his way back. We wish him safe travels. But to make up for his absence, we have another extremely high Q calcio individual. You may know him from Twitter, Instagram, obviously a very, very successful Milan podcast, which they were so kind in having me. Obviously, all the links are in the description. But Martino, welcome to the AC Milan Zone podcast. Lovely to
Thank,
make your debut here in the holiday season. How are you doing?
thank you, Stefano. Yeah, sorry Oscar can't be with us, but thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun to have you on as well. Obviously, not too long ago, so people should go and check out that episode. It was a good discussion with you, myself, and Matt. It was very nice to get a very early afternoon victory for Milan, so we could just relax the entire day. Something that we're not used to over the past like 10 or 15 years.
Absolutely. How scared, before we get into the very celebration of this seemingly small from an outside perspective, but I think if you're a true Milan fan, you know how important this was. How scared were you when you saw Hellas Verona on December 28th at what would have been like 6:30 a.m. for you,
Correct.
12:30 kickoff Italian time? It just
I
screamed
mean,
trap game.
I got more scared when you looked at the standings, and Verona were 18th in the relegation zone because you were like, oh shit. Like, if they were like mid-table, I'd be like, okay, it's fine. But it's just always, obviously we hadn't beaten any of the newly promoted sides this year. Um, and then obviously how we always play against Sassuolo in the afternoon. I just remember all the time we would struggle against lesser sides like this. This has obviously been a trademark of this team. Um, so it was great. It was really great to see because that first half I thought was a little rocky in general, but to see, just how it transpired over time, which we'll talk about. But going into it, Matt, I think, did not predict the win. I actually did. I finally went with it. But yeah, I think everybody was nervous. I think if you weren't, you're probably the most optimistic Milan fan, or you're lying, because there's just no way anyone would feel comfortable, even at home. That's the other thing too. We're terrible at home. It doesn't matter if it's like away at that time. Like, we're specifically really bad at San Siro. Even when we won the Scudetto, we sucked at home relative to like other champions. We were a great road team, but this go around, man, I'm just so happy to get 3 points from a game that we should.
Yeah, and much like many Milan games, the final result this year does not tell the whole tale. You see 3-0 and you think domination, and look, we put the game away, and the last few minutes we were playing. Both teams are sort of playing just to play, but this was not as a runaway, a domination game like we see Napoli have, like we see Inter have against a smaller team often. That first half was quite tight. We did not create a lot. We had the usual spacing problems that this Milan team has had. Not a lot of chances, not a lot of touches for the two players up top. And of course, we need to talk about Nkunku, and we will. But how much, when I see this, and I'm always, the joke with Oscar is that I'm always the more pessimistic one, or he is. Um, I see this and I say, look, if we don't crack this on a corner right before the half, and then in the second half they
Right.
gave away a silly penalty, because that's a silly penalty. Uh, I think we struggle. We continue to struggle like we did in the first half. Do you walk out of here thinking, okay, this is the time of the season where we start beating all the small teams, because we have a couple interesting games in terms of smaller teams before it gets hard again? Or do you say, look, winning cures everything. This gives confidence. We'll see Pulisic continue his good run. We'll see Nkuku come out and all that stuff.
I think it's a combination of everything because Milan were still thin in attack for this. It's really just two attackers again, that are naturalized attackers with Pulisic and Nkunku. Doesn't seem like Pulisic is 100%. Pulisic in this, he's just so clinical right now, and you could tell the physical drop off that he's had prior to his assist against Napoli, for example, when he's accelerating and blowing past players. But he's at the right place at the right time, and that's all you can really ask for. Even though it's very funny that he's not a striker in that situation. I tweeted out right before we actually scored in the
I
corner. I
saw
was like,
that. Yeah.
I think the only opportunities we're going to have in this current moment are dead ball opportunities, because Milan were doing a pretty decent job of getting corner kicks, and some of them were poor. I think we've been poor in deliveries. I think it's a mix of being off for 10 days too, which is a very long time in this part of the season after the amount of matches we have played. Um, I think I think it's Verona really playing defensive, like a lot of these other sides in Serie A, where they're sort of like, if we could get a draw at San Siro, that's great, because we know a lot of sides don't play for wins away in Serie A, so
Yeah.
they wanted to make things difficult. The second we broke them down, it was realistically what a 15-minute span in which we scored all three goals. If you like, obviously don't count the
Yeah.
halftime, getting that goal right at the end of the half, to your point, I think put us in a much healthier and positive position mentally for the second half, because I thought Nkunku made decent runs. He wasn't, no one was particularly great in that first half. I would say Rabiot was probably the best player, but there was that run in Kunku made where one of the center backs for Verona made a phenomenal slide tackle, and Kunku was positioned well enough. He could have maybe got the other end of it. But to me, that was like a positive sign, because if you make the runs, then eventually it will be there. And we'll talk about a second half a little bit later, because I saw a lot of positives. And I know you think the same. But for me, with Milan, it's just sort of it feels like they have to see one goal go behind the back of the net in order for them to start feeling positive, or they go down a couple goals like they did against Torino to wake up. Lazio and Coppa Italia, right? Like they go down and it's the last 10 to 15 minutes. I
Yeah.
would say Modric is the biggest benefactor in all of this, of where the schedule is at right now, because you know it and everyone says it. There was a clearly different player after getting so much rest at his age to come in and change that dynamic. I think Yashadi as well. Later on, we'll talk about the second half. I guess I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's just easier to know that they could bring players off that are more comfortable now. Fofana, Ricci, and Yashari off the bench is huge. But I will also say, and I don't like doing this with referees, it was a terribly officiated first half for both sides. I think Nelson was his name. Should have
Mm-hmm.
been on a yellow card. He
Right
elbowed
away.
Pulisic in the back of the head. Obviously, that's not reviewable for VAR because it's not a red card
Mm-hmm.
incident. It should have just been a yellow. I think they were just being way too physical, and there was nothing being called on a fair playing level. So I think Milan had to battle that physicality as well. But the second that first one went in, Verona, they also didn't do anything this match,
Yeah, I was
right?
expecting a little bit more. Look, this is a side that's gonna be fighting for in the relegation battle until the very end. There's no doubt. But they have some interesting players. I know Matt and I shared our appreciation for Jovan, the Brazilian up top. Gift Orban, who came on the second half, is a solid player. They do have some quality. I think it's a little bit of history that tells these teams what to do, right? It's very clear that we are a poorly designed team in many ways to run over these small teams, right? We don't have true strikers. We struggle to create space. We struggle to move the ball fast. So they all live and die by keep the 0-0. Even the 1-0, most teams are happy with us because it's Serie A. They can just wait. They're happy to wait until the last 15 minutes, and then all hell breaks loose. All you need is a ball thrown in and a little
The
rebound.
Lazio game was a perfect example of that
Exactly.
this
A little
weekend, right?
penalty, something like that, and they walk away with a point. So, we saw it with Parma. We gave the game away, but you don't even want to draw anymore. You want to be within striking distance. Um,
Mm.
I think that was a lot of their plan. And hey, it was working pretty well in the first half, right? We don't find a corner goal. Again, the game looks a little different. And to me, that's Allegri's biggest battle, right? They gave him full Krug, which of course is just not great, but it's a different profile.
Yeah.
To at least be able to cross to someone and not see those Bartesaghi beautiful crosses go to waste. But the spacing problem is gonna remain that. We saw when the game opened up. You're completely right. In the second half, we were great because they were forced to push up a little bit because they went down, 2-0 and then after 3-0.
Yeah.
And there, Nkuku thrives, Pulisic thrives. Um,
Right.
so that's not what I'm worried about. It's just being able to get those those first goals. But obviously, man of the match kind of has to go to Nkunku if you look at the statistics. But maybe walk me through one or two players that impressed you, and then I can tell you what I think about mine.
I will say for me, Rabiot, out of all the other players, again, I think it's just such a staple performance because it's not just so much about what he does as a player and what he's capable of doing. You know, he gets the assist to Pulisic. Um, he makes Pavlovic so much better. And I was just having this
Yeah,
conversation with somebody.
yeah,
Pavlovic is obviously this maniac who's a free running sort of center back who wants to push up the pitch. He has more discipline this season. Um, and it helps when he's more in his naturalized back three position. But Rabiot covers so much, right? You know, when you have players like even last year with Theo Hernandez and when Leao was playing, and this is what made Kessie so valuable. And I think this is the closest sort of positional replacement we've had for him is that Rabiot will do all the dirty work and fill the gaps that largely go unnoticed because the average person is watching the ball and the game just casually. If you really just take the time to watch this guy for like 5 minutes in pockets, you could see everything that he's doing has huge value for that. And it's why Allegri wanted him because he's so entrusted in his abilities. And I think he's such a fine player. I really do think he's been the signing of the summer for us. I know Modric is Modric. It's really hard to argue that. But for me, Rabiot, what he does, everything off the ball, on the ball as well, he's just been sensational, and he's still young. He's just 30 years old. So Milan will have a few years with him here that they could really get him at a high level, especially for Serie A. For me, that's what I love to see. Um, I think everyone else put in solid shifts and performances. I don't think anyone stood out that was fantastic. I think Pulisic, like I was saying, it wasn't the greatest of games, but he's right there in the position where he needs to be to
yeah,
produce. And sometimes that's enough, right? I
yeah,
mean, not to slander him, but Cristiano Ronaldo, the back half of his career, that's what he was. He wasn't elite off the ball anymore. He wasn't creating a lot, but he was elite in finishing. Pulisic's goal scoring rate this season is incredible. I think he's like a 50% conversion. He's one goal behind Lautaro now, but it's half the minutes.
yeah.
Um, I will say, and final thing before I let you speak is De Winter put in a better performance this go around to bounce back of what we've seen from him. I don't think it was anything special, nothing that was like, wow, like De Winter took a huge step here. It was just sort of like he played the game the right way. He didn't try and he was scared to pass the ball forward. In my personal opinion,
Yeah.
it didn't look like he was ready to do that. And sometimes that's okay. If you feel like you might have to force a pass or your pass might not get there, just give it back to one of the best goalkeepers in the world with the ball at his feet. That's okay. Playing it safe is better than being sorry and taking risks, especially as a defender. I thought it was something positive for him to build off of. So I just think, if we're going to be harsh on his performances, we should give him some credit for a decent shift regardless of opponent. I thought he did fine in that regard. But for me, Rabiot, outside of Nkunku, Loftus Cheek was his touches were really poor, but
Okay.
physically he could be so dominant in Serie A because there are not many midfielders with that profile and prowess. Because he's such an elite athlete, but some of his touches, I'm like, oh, man, this is the version we got of him today. Because I think he was like taking one of the touches in the first half, and it just instead of like taking 15, 20 yards of space, it just bounced off of him and went right back to the defender. It was just a little frustrating to see.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
actually had this on my notes. I'll work my way backwards through your comments because yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a sore subject on this podcast, and this actually I see in the chat on the live chat. Thank you to Sath Vinghedge or close to that, saying Ruben was good too. Please do let us know what you think. Every time I see him, I just get more and more frustrated. I mean, I was watching also the Inter game, and I'm reminded Lautaro Martinez is like 175 maybe, and you'd think he's Hulk out there in terms of just how dominant he is. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek is 190 plus centimeters. Apologies, I don't know
oh,
the
you're fine. I think he's like 6'4". It
yeah,
would be
just
the conversion.
in terms of footballer giants, like those are basketball numbers. And I just now to be fair to him, and again to connect to your earlier point, I do think the refereeing was actually really harsh on him. We saw them allowed to be very physical. Verona players just kind of, shoulder to shoulder, knocking our players down, and those being played on, which is fine by me. That's how I want those calls to go. But especially with Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we saw a lot of shoulder to shoulder contact that just was called right away. They fall very easily, and yeah, I mean, Italian referees have been absolute terrible this season for pretty much everyone across the board. It seems like any game, anything can happen at any point. But yeah, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, frustrating for me. I wouldn't call that a good performance. So, Chatter, sorry, I disagree with you. It just always feels like it's 30% what he could do. And also just the heading. I know it's a little tough because he's asked to go up there and fill a role that maybe he doesn't, naturally fill in some of that added striker.
Right.
But I just wish he could do more. And even that beautiful ball that Nkuku sets him up for the possible 4-0, it's just right at the keeper. I just want to see a little bit more. And I know that I'm probably the only Fofana defender, but to me, it's just not good enough. And in a serious game, I'm gonna take Yusuf most of the time. And Yusuf probably misses that shot too. Probably instead of right at the keeper, goes right over the bar. I understand I'm gonna catch fire for this.
Right.
But to me, also off the ball is the biggest difference. I want to see someone the stature of Ruben Loftus-Cheek impose himself and get some balls back. And I feel like Modric does like 17 more interceptions per game than Ruben Loftus-Cheek at half the size. So to me, that's always frustrating. I see. Let me catch up with the chat a little bit. Which players are you keen to come back from loan? None of it is happening realistically. No one's coming back. Martino and I, with Matt, actually talked about the possibility of seeing Camarda back and how we'd like that, but it's not happening. We talked about maybe Ruben Loftus-Cheek wanted to move to see more minutes to try to crack the England squad. In that case, I wouldn't mind Musa back, but it's not happening. It was confirmed this week. So stay away from the false news. Maybe things changes, but at the moment, none of that happens. To work back on your points and the chat, I feel De Winter is a backup for Tomori. I don't blame him. We can expect him to play the Gabi role all of a sudden. I mean, preaching to the choir here, I think. We can all agree there. He's made for that role. I totally agree with you, Martino. He looked scared. You could see, even up 3-0, he gets sort of the ball and he's pressured all of a sudden. And he's like back to the defender and eventually just gives it away. He's just a little bit terrified, which I can understand. San Siro has that effect. Allegri, after the Super Cup, I had spoken about not seeing things defensively that he liked and changing some things up. Going forward, we were very much a 4-2-2, much more than we see usually. Usually we see it a little bit, but tomorrow was much on the wing, and that I think was to a little bit protect De Winter as well, as you said. Relieve him of those ball duties and allowing sort of Modric to take over, which makes sense. But yeah, look, I mean, De Winter is not bad to me. He is set for that Tomori replacement, and we hope that any hour, any minute, any day now, we get, as we were joking pre-stream, any able-bodied defender that has hopefully seen some Serie A minutes for those Gabbia and Pavlovic role. And hopefully we see Gabbia already back from Cagliari, but remains to be seen. For me, of players that I thought did well, I'm a bit of a Modric stan, and I see a lot of chatter online about, he didn't do that much, and he always gets so much praise.
He was great yesterday. That was his best in weeks. I thought.
Agree. Please watch the football games. Just because on your app the little ball doesn't appear or the assist doesn't appear, doesn't mean that a player didn't have a great game. As we said, we struggle to create space, and Modric is a cheat code for that. He at peak level, when he's not tired, he's just a different level. That being said, I was very happy to see Jashari came in. Once again, he's good for a couple of very good throws, so I think he could be a very interesting option as he sort of ramps up to form after his injury. So I'm looking forward more to him. Now, if we must bash someone, and I think it's hard this game because obviously we went 3-0 and everyone does well. Who do you think could have done a little better. That to me, that vote goes to again Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Not that he had a
Yeah,
bad game, but again, I just get so frustrated. Me and Oscar talk endlessly about that game against PSG that he's had that one time where he
yeah,
looked
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
world class, and after that, I've seen so little of that. Who did you, yeah, wanted to see a little bit more from?
I mean, it's more of him. I think Fofana's not fully fit back yet, and that's exactly why he
Yeah,
didn't start. Because if Allegri has a chance, he will start Fofana. I think from everything that we've seen,
yeah,
yeah, Loftus Cheek. It's always the technical ability with him. The physical abilities, there's zero doubts. He's the most impressive physical midfielder in the squad, and arguably in the league. To be honest with you, there's no one really built like him.
mm-hmm.
And this is always what it's sort of come down to in his career is the consistency with his technical ability and off ball work. It's just not there. There were even instances in his first season with Milan where he was really good in a box to box midfield play when he was, ball carrying, and it was tremendous. That match against Roma before somebody got sent off, I forgot who it was. It could have been Tamori, but
Might have been, yeah.
Loftus Cheek was sensational in that one where he's when players are bouncing off of him from trying to take the ball away, that's when he's at his best. To your point, too, like the shot, the angle wasn't the easiest on the
Absolutely,
Nkunku
for sure.
pass, but you're right. It's right at him. It's not hit with ferocious velocity. It wasn't exactly, cut across flash it across goal too. No one says you have to shoot that on target. I think it's just sort of that decision making. The run was okay. Nkunku's pass was sensational. I thought that was real quality. That's where Nkunku is at his best, is actually when he's distributing, because he has real technical ability on the ball. He's just not a true striker. Why we all weren't that big of fans of his signing with this system. Um, but yeah, I mean, Loftus Cheek is just poor touches. I think a big part of why Milan kind of actually struggled in that first half sometimes was because of him. It was just kind of glaring. And to your point, it wasn't an awful performance, but out of all the players that we sit there and look at it like, okay, you should have done better in these areas, whereas everyone else kind of did very well with what they had.
Yeah, agreed. Let's do first the chat, and then it's time to talk about Christopher Nkunku. Finally, in some positive light. What will be our midfield three by the end of the season? So I totally agree with you. I think Max found the perfect balance with Modric, Rabiot, and Fofana. I think we will see a lot of Ruben Loftus-Cheek for Fofana off the bench. I think a lot of Richie, which maybe Allegri didn't expect in that role too. Do you think this will stay, or how do you see it shape differently? For me, very quickly, I totally
Mm-hmm.
agree with you, and there's a point I wanted to catch up on, and then I forgot. Yeah, Rabiot is so underrated. He covers, he makes, as you said, Pavlovic so much better, but he also allows Modric to really shine. Modric is defensively being so good because he can intercept so much, but that's just because Rabiot is covering so much space, pressing up high, allowing Modric to sort of step back. He always sees two passes ahead, so get those interceptions. So that chemistry to me is what Max really values the most, and same thing goes with Fofana. But yeah, down the line, I guess will this still be the final three?
Is really difficult because of playing once a week. So like Allegri is just going to keep on playing with the 11 that has gotten him only one loss this entire season. So it's kind of hard for him to move away. I brought this up on many podcasts and occasions and conversations of Arden Yashari is more of an unknown sort of player. Yeah, he did great in Belgium, player of the year, young player of the year. You hear honestly it's difficult, not difficult. It is difficult to recall the last time they signed a player where no one is actually talking about his technical abilities and what he does on the ball. They talk about his leadership and his intangibles. And that's what I find most interesting because in those 20-25 minutes or so yesterday, when you see him, the intensity in which he plays with, even if Milan are up 3-0, he's higher pressing,
Yeah.
he's on the ball, he's making darting runs that he doesn't really have to. He could stay a little bit back in his own half, receive the ball, try and kill time. The distribution levels, him adjusting to the league. What my point was to bring up to a lot of people, and I don't have a clear cut opinion on him on the future yet. I think he's clearly got quality. Whether or not he shows the consistency is going to be up to him. is how good could he be? Could he be sensational, right? Because everyone's got this PTSD of buying players from other leagues around the same fee of 35 to 40
Around
million.
the same club.
Andre Silva, it doesn't work out. De Ketelare, Caldara, like there's been plenty of players. So people have this sort of hesitancy where I'm saying, okay, but this guy's different. Every player is different. It doesn't matter where they come from and what league they come from. This guy gets glowing reviews from every single person that is around him. It's not just sort of like, well, if he's put in the right position here, he could do well, like De Ketelare, right? Where the confidence issues with CDK were very obvious after he got off to a rough start. He looked like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, San Siro
Pioli
just too
fell out
big.
of favor with him. Yashadi's coming back from an injury. He's being put into interesting positions and situations where he is playing in Modric's role. So you're not sitting Luka Modric, right? Like when he's playing like this, it's impossible. He's
Yeah,
unplayable. So for me, Yashadi is sort of like, does he end up being so good that Allegri has to put him next to Modric? Does he fit there tactically? I think we've seen and heard some of his qualities that he's more of a physically imposing Benacer in terms of play style, is something that I've heard and read from people, which is should get everybody excited because Benacer in his prime was incredible. He's one of the best players in the league, midfielders
yeah,
for sure. I think it ultimately comes down to how good does Yashadi play within the minutes that he has. How many matches are Milan in where they're up by 2 goals, where Allegri is comfortable subbing off Modric, at the 70-minute mark to get him refreshed for the next match? That's the kind of difficult thing here because a club of this stature with this depth in the midfield department usually never plays once a week. So it's going to be difficult for Allegri to juggle that because if we were in Europe, if we were deeper in Coppa Italia, you would see the starting rotation change. Like that's
yeah.
not going to be the same midfield all the time. But when Allegri knows he's going to have a 3-man one, I think it would be rare to see him change it up unless the the stylistic fits against certain opponents works better with certain players. And I mean in the sense of, is Yashari next to Modric and Rabiot a better play than Fofana against I don't know, an Atalanta who play a little bit more offensive minded than your Cagliari who were playing on Friday, who are the complete opposite of that. So I think ultimately what it's going to come down to is matchups, and Max is a manager who will not stray away from stuff that works. If you're near the top of the table for a
Absolutely.
reason, and largely it's because of a little shaky foundationally at the back, but if you're not scoring goals, once Milan gets like Leao, and even if Santi is able to make decent runs, Fulkrug off of the ball, doing well, I think he's gonna try and add a little bit more of variety in moments. Because I think he's been a little bit more comfortable. He changed up the entire midfield three. He did that. I think that's the first time we've seen that this season.
Yeah, first time we could
Um,
afford it.
exactly. Besides like Udinese, but like we also didn't have the healthy numbers at that point.
Yeah,
So I think ultimately what it comes down to with Allegri is, why am I changing anything if this keeps working? And I think he's a really big fan of Fofana. So I see it Rabiot, Modric, Fofana. And if it's anything else, I'd be relatively surprised. But I also think it would be a good thing because that means Yashari or Ricci have taken a step above for that.
yeah. I totally agree. I think perhaps the only thing positive in the sort of Jashari being blocked behind Modric situation is that the tricky part of having multiple competitions and sort of having not a B team, but your main starters and playing with the subs in other competition is sort of what Charles de Catalari got stuck in.
Mm.
Uh, little confidence drop in the beginning, and so you'd see him playing the lower teams, the smaller teams with the subs, and it's very difficult to play if you don't have a Rafael next to you, if you don't have Pulisic next to you, So
Right.
he was stuck out there, playing often in a role that wasn't particularly his, with not the starters. I think if you're right, if Jashari can make the most out of these minutes when we win, and look, I think he will be called upon in tighter games where maybe a full crew is put on and you do need some more passing because there's no space. And Max has shown that he knows this. That a lot of times you want to throw in strikers and that's fine, but you also sometimes need the second CDM next to Modric because there's so little space up there that it doesn't matter how many. If you can throw the whole kitchen sink up there, you need players that can
Right.
bring the ball forward. So I think he'll have his time to shine. He is a little bit stuck behind Luka Modric, as anyone would. But I agree with you. I do think that if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Max definitely agrees with that. So we'll see those three remain those three for a long time if everyone's healthy. Now we must talk about Christopher Nkunku. The man came from London. The expectations were not great. He didn't kill it over there in London. He struggled for a few weeks. It
Right.
wasn't his birthday on the weekend, but he should have had some cake to celebrate. He definitely did have the balloons. Uh, Obviously, I think he said it himself in the press conference. Uh, you know, it's a penalty, which he earned, to be fair,
Yeah.
and a tap in from a beautiful Modric shot. Man, I wanted Modric to score that so bad.
Incredible.
So it's not that he put the team on his back and created magic out of thin air, but still, the confidence boost is huge for any striker. Um, and I did think he had, especially in the second half, a better game. You saw him play with a little bit more freedom, some positive touches. As we
Right.
always say, the caveat: worth 35 million, not quite yet, not that kind of performance quite yet, but shows some positive signs of life really in the player. What did you make of his performance? Do you think this can sort of be the ketchup bottle moment? When you tap in the back of the ketchup bottle and all of a sudden it all comes out. Is this it?
It's difficult to say. I think in the instances in which the game opened up for Milan is after he scored the penalty. I'm really happy that he ended up taking it and finishing that chance. It reminded me a little bit of, when Santi was struggling last year and Pulisic handed him the penalty shot against Napoli. Those things can sort of backfire. We were hearing rumors that Milan already were considering getting rid of him in January or even potentially this summer because they rather just cut their losses instead of trying to make such a high quality transfer in terms of finances work. They rather just collect whatever money they can, like they did with Morata and all these others last January. For me, when Nkunku, I think what he struggles with is the formational fit. It's not perfect for him. As we said on when you joined us, and what I've said from the beginning was he unironically would have worked better in the past couple of Milans where a 4-2-3-1 caters to him,
Yeah,
where he would be that number 10 and he would be a fantastic distributor. Playing a second striker, I think he's also been unfortunately put in situations where he's playing off of Pulisic and Leao.
yeah,
And those aren't strikers either. Those are
yeah,
wingers. They all kind of play similarly.
yeah,
Nkunku's more central than the other two. Um, that's kind of where, oddly enough, his best fit would be next to Santi, because Santi would make better runs. He's more of a naturalized striker. We saw the quality with the passing. His assist to Partezagi against Sassuolo, it was sort of whatever because the entire 90-minute performance was lacking. But I felt so good after, forget the second goal, that pass to Loftus Cheek, where it's like he looks so comfortable on the ball. He looks like he's in a flow state of where he knows where he's getting the ball, who to pass to, where they're making runs. Obviously, that comes with time, chemistry, adapting to the league is something that Allegri has been trying to, I guess, give patience to in the media, even though it's really difficult to hold that back when you're at a club like this
yeah,
and you're kind of dropping points against sides that you shouldn't. For me, with Nkunku, the second goal, I know it's just a tap in, but people just have to hear me out on this. To have the ability to quickly pounce on a ball that really wasn't spilled that badly, only just a couple centimeters away from the keeper, to pounce on that immediately, poach it in, and he wasn't that close. He had a sprint towards that. I think that's just him being more aware. And to your question about is this the ketchup bottle? It could be. Two goals a brace in the league. Like sometimes guys just need confidence.
yeah,
When I see him, there's a player with limited confidence, right? Even if his quality, his positioning, he's one thing a player needs at a club like this. You and I know it because we've been watching for decades now. I know we're kind of older, but we know that if you do not have confidence at a club like this, and that's pretty much almost anywhere, but especially a club like Milan, you have no chance.
Yeah.
You have no chance to succeed.
Yeah.
I hope this works out. I don't want this to fail. Why would I want Milan to go through another signing of this stature with that amount of money that we have to sit here like, okay, who do we try and go for now? Who do we try and make work that didn't work out at another club, and we bring him in here hoping it works out for us, because that method is terrible. It's backfired on us quite often. I hope. I just hope. I think it sounds like he's going to have another start here against Cagliari, because every time Leao is supposedly accelerating, which is his entire game, he he's not well physically.
Yeah.
Which is a problem, because this is a little bit more of an epidemic in football that we've seen. Lamine Yamal has had this pubaglia issue, right?
Yeah.
And I believe the Argentine that Real Madrid, I can't say his last name, but Franco,
Mm-hmm.
he also had been struggling with it. This could have to do with a lot of things. I think we just need Leao back to 100%. But my point is, with Santi out, with Fulkrug still not able to really play, I think he'll be able to be eligible for Friday. Um, but yeah, he's gonna get his opportunities now. So like we'll see. Uh, I hope so, because when we look back on the season, Stefano, if Milan win the Scudetto or they're making top four, and it's because Nkunku was picking Milan up in these moments like Pulisic has, even Leao had against Fiorentina, Pulisic versus Torino. If he's able to be the difference in some of these games, it makes his life a lot easier. It takes the pressure completely off of him, because he's doing things in the time that he's afforded and he's producing. And that's really it, right? Like, I didn't care it was a penalty or a tap in. He scored two
Yeah.
goals.
Of
I
course. Yeah.
don't give a shit, excuse my language, on
Absolutely. Fully agreed.
how it happens. Just do it. I'm cool with it. Santi Mena scoring that first goal against Lecce. Who cares? He almost screwed up a tap in, but it went in.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Just if he could build off of that, I'm happy, because when he's confident, and last point here, and he's distributing like he could with Loftus Cheek, and we have other strikers that could make runs or other players making overlaps, that's when you unlock that player that was so good at RB Leipzig, that we hope could see that in Serie A, which I'm not still convinced of, but more flashes the better, right?
Yeah. And before I give you my 2 cents, I don't know if it was just me again being too negative, but for the same reason why it's so important for him to get a goal, penalty, own goal, bounced off his skull, I don't really care. How scared were you when you saw the ball being handed to him for the penalty? Because I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh come on, just not right now.
I
This is an important
I
moment in the game. If he
I
misses
get
this,
what you
this
were
is it.
saying, but it was kind of oddly enough where I was when Magnan had a like it was either Napoli or even Roma, where I was like, okay, the amount of times penalties are scored, or like when penalties are saved, it's a fallacy. It's a mathematical fallacy. But in my head, I'm like, we're due. The law of averages are telling us like
Yeah.
he has to score a penalty. We can't be this bad at like what are usually 80% conversion rates. We
Yeah.
can't just keep missing.
Yeah.
And it's funnily enough, like the way we think we're nervous as supporters, is he gonna score this one? And Kuku is still a professional at the end of the day. He's gonna hit that hard and true. Maybe he was just sort of like, bro, I haven't had a chance to shoot. Now I finally get
Clearly,
one
yeah.
where I could just run up and take it. It was a solid penalty. I love the no nonsense penalties these days. I'm not like a woke, like I hate the skip up walks. Sometimes players do too much. Run up and can kick it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just do that. I was a little bit like, okay, Christian didn't want to take this one, whatever. That was like kind of the only thing. I was like, why is Pulisic not taking it? But
Yeah.
oddly enough, not that nervous
The
with
zone
Kuku.
Italy showed a good moment, because I was also really scared about that, because it cut off and then it come back on, and I saw Pulisic and Nkuku going, and I was like, my life flashed before my eyes, and I thought, okay, here we go. We're gonna see them two argue about, no, I'm the penalty taker, and no, I'm the new striker. I need to unlock myself, so I
Oh, you
steal
mean
this
like
penalty.
Fiorentina last year?
Exactly, miss it, chaos. But no, the zone Italy shown a good moment where both Modric and Pulisic picked up the ball, went to Nkunku, and said, "Look, you earned it. Go for it." Obviously, we don't know that for sure. We don't hear what they say,
Right.
but if that's the case, that's even better, I think, for in terms of leadership from two of our most important players.
Agreed.
and also for how Nkuku is
But
introduced
that's
in the team.
the big difference. The great point you made right there is between last year and this year's team, the biggest difference, right, besides like the defensive stuff, is dressing room.
Yeah,
It's the camaraderie that this club and squad has compared to last year. This time last year, our manager, right, gets sacked. He goes out to the media. We're seeing Teo fight with him. Leao is having attitude problems.
yeah,
Even Tammy Abraham, all of that
yeah.
stuff. You
Calabria is
hear
getting punched.
Morata in the dressing room
Yeah,
supposedly fighting with Conceição, and that's why he left in January.
yeah.
Where you have these bashing of heads and personalities with no one to keep the stability, right? Because
Hmm.
I think that matters when Tade comes in, right? And Allegri is there. Conceição, yeah, success in Portugal, zero denying that. But when you come in the middle of a dressing room that has all these like differing personalities, it's tough to stabilize that. That's what Allegri's done so well. That is indisputable with this 11 is we're all a good unit. We're a good squad. If we have any opportunity, and they spend a lot more time together training than these other top sides where it's
True.
week in, week out. We're working to put in better performances and we could see a phenomenal run from Milan in the second half of the year with just playing one match because we have more leaders in the squad too, right? Modric, Rabiot, those sort of personalities are huge. And I love Teo Hernandez in general, but the way he was the past 2 seasons, for me, that's not a leader. That's not the guy
Yeah,
who was supposed to take a leadership role and increase it, like I have seen from Leao, like I
yeah,
have seen from Tamori or Manyan as well as a goalkeeper.
yeah,
um, those personalities, that stuff matters. Bringing back Salamakers too,
yeah,
that mentality, and then we'll see with Yashadi. That matters. The ethos. That's what we were. The number one thing I was super pissed off about with the Maldini stuff was you cannot get rid of that environment.
yeah,
They torched it. They cratered it into the ground. Regardless if Pioli's there, some of the players, it's a day to day thing of your bosses. When Milan were coming in these past couple of seasons where Ferlani is running things on the sporting side, what is Moncada's role? What is Latan's role? Like I've spoken about this and I known people that were working at the club in higher up positions where they're like, it's not that everybody dislikes everybody. Nobody knows whose effing job is
running things.
whose.
Yeah,
Like who am I talking? Like Teo kind of talked about it in his interview, and I don't think it's any excuse. And he said it too, the way he was against Fiorentina, fired Nord. But he's sort of like, on a day to day, like where do I go? I know Maldini and Masada are people I could talk to. I could
yeah,
feel okay with. Pioli is the manager for the time being. Like I know where if I have an issue, I know who I can go talk to. Milan didn't have that the past couple of seasons. I think they have that now, and that's a huge leap. And I know that kind of sidetrack things, but that's the most important thing for me because in that moment, and you mentioned in Kunku, his teammates are supporting him. That's what players need if they get off to difficult starts because you could crash and burn and never recover as a player if you get off to the wrong foot with a club. And who knows? I hope Nkunku works out. I hope Santi works out. I don't want to do this every year where we have to keep on recycling and looking for players.
yeah.
I want consistency. I want guys who can perform at this club. So I think the ethos has improved dramatically. So I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most underrated and underappreciated elements when these, in our case currently Americans, but we've seen various different management come in from foreign countries that maybe don't have also that general football pedigree. And it's something that Como is doing very well. That the
Right.
Indonesian ownership at Como understands in terms of do right by the city, do right by the football club, create an environment that allows players to thrive. Everyone talks about how during a Scudetto season, you look at those players, and there's some excellent players and a lot of players that played above their level. But most of all, the cohesion was key. Documentary of a special talking about our Champions League days with Maldini, with Ambrosini that came out. Is called Stavamo bene insieme, which in Italian means we were we were we stavamo bene insieme. Now I'm struggling with the right translation, but like we worked well together. We just like hung out well. We just were well meshed together.
They were all best friends. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So it goes by that. And having Maldini, I figure that's literally a Milanello every day. That's watching your training. That's talking over things with you. Also helps that he's won a couple Champions Leagues here and there in his career for sure. But that's key, and people don't realize it. So when also this ownership says Thiago Silva, he's 40, doesn't really make much sense according to my pedigree. It's like, yeah, Ibrahimovic came back on us on one leg. He played 25 minutes here and there, pretty much stationary. But we came from a team that was scared shitless, where players would just pass backwards because they were too scared to make a mistake. And he put the whole team on their shoulders. And when everyone was scared, now they passed to him, and he sorted it out. And now we're seeing a very similar thing with Modric. The value of Thiago Silva isn't that he can, at 40, be the fastest player on the team and make Van Dijk-like recoveries 101 on a game. The value of Thiago Silva is making sure that Pavlovic doesn't lose his head, making sure that Tomori doesn't, with his freaking out, get the yellow card that's maybe too much, making sure that De Winter learns how to play in San Siro without shitting a break every time. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing we'll sort
I
out.
mean, those were the best. You could argue the best signings of the Maldini era, where like Giroud, Kier,
Yeah.
that were immediate impacts where you
Yeah,
could
I mean,
just
look
plug
at
and
player
play
like
them with
Kier.
your
Perfect, right? Perfect example of this.
and that's a January signing of someone who was a journeyman
Yeah,
sort of player. He never really established himself well. I know he was where Palermo, Sevilla, maybe I
Sevilla
forget where
briefly.
in
Yeah,
Spain.
yeah.
So like he was kind of bouncing all over the place, and it's funny to kind of see that even Acerbi to an extent when he moved to Lazio,
Mm-hmm.
you could see that, and defenders are completely different than any other position and how they
Absolutely
age.
agree.
And Barzagli was one of the best defenders of the 2010s, and he did nothing until he was 30, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what I'm most worried about come January, and we talked about that too. Is how are we going to get somebody in there that could stabilize this team right now? Where I love what Gambia has brought. I think he's made huge strides. I don't think he'll be that much better of a player. I think it's just a little bit better, but that's a hell of a consistent player that at his age, knock on wood, he's healthy. He could play at Milan for another 10 years. Like that's a realistic possibility considering his love for the squad. So yeah, the leadership is just it's paramount. So we'll see. That's also like something Maldini did talk about in an athletic article a few years ago when James Horncastle interviewed him. And I know this gets a little sidetracked, but it's how important it was in the team
No,
building.
go ahead. I love
He's
it.
like, we don't just scout players and sign players because of how good they are on the pitch. And even Moncada had mentioned this. So we're looking at their family, how they carry themselves every single day when they walk into the room. That's, I mean, what, Milan and the Berlusconi, Galliani heights those years, sure, they were paying top dollar for all these players. There's
Yeah.
zero disputing that. But as we have seen over many years, many times with other clubs, that doesn't mean anything. You could spend all this money. The most money we've spent were back-to-back windows with Leonardo and then Fossobelli. Those sucked. They were shit. They were
Yeah.
like maybe 2 to 3 good players
Yeah.
where things were not really working out, some
Yeah.
bad injury luck, whatever. But it does matter. It does matter when you're bringing in guys that have good leadership skills, don't really cause problems within the dressing room. That's how they find guys like Alexis Salamakers for a few million.
Yeah.
Kier. I mean,
Pierre
Zlatan.
Kalulu.
Kalulu he was my favorite, and I'm still upset about the
Yeah.
sale.
Same here.
But like all that kind of stuff, it just matters. Like Tomori, good head on his shoulder. Sure, very inconsistent sometimes, but that's still somebody who grew up in Cobham, in the Chelsea Academy. That's a very respectable academy. It's not the same as it used to be, but you knew what you were getting from players
Yeah.
like that. I just think going back in sort of that direction as well as how they scout players analytically, blah blah blah. That stuff matters so much
Yeah.
because for me, I'm not sure about you. What made me love the team so much were the quality of people. They weren't just great players. They were like Kaká's a great guy.
Yeah.
Maldini's a good human being. They're respectable. Gattuso's insane, but he's not a bad guy. For me, that matters so much. That is a part of the identity of the club and what makes me so excited to watch some teams. Because say we spent money, we go into seasons being, I don't know, apathetic towards how excited we are or not. I was more excited heading into seasons like the year we finished behind Inter in second place
Yeah.
when they won their 19th title. I was more excited and happy day to day because I knew the direction that the club was headed in
Hmm.
was in a good spot.
Yeah.
That wasn't sort of the case the past couple of years. I was a little hesitant this year. I still am because of the ownership and management. But I don't know. That matters. And I'm sorry for rambling, but that's
No, I
just
mean, I fully agree. I'm glad you brought it up also because it doesn't, I feel like get brought up a lot in terms of just general football discussion, especially online. Again, there's a lot of people that maybe don't watch the games and we talk about, oh, and this player is terrible. You see it also online with like, whoa, turns out went and looked at Ronaldinho's goal and assist numbers. He was kind of a fraud, and it's like, oh my god, get off Twitter, please, please. There's real life out there. No, but I agree. All that stuff matters, right? Because there's a few players in the history of football that are talented enough to just let the talent shine. And at this moment in time, Milan is now grabbing those players. They're not grabbing the Yamin Lamal.
yeah,
They're not grabbing the Ronaldinho
Alan,
regents.
right.
We're grabbing those middle, your Christian Pulisic, and say, okay, does he have a support system, a family background, a football background where he's gonna work hard and improve? Because then that's how you get the Pulisic deals. When you get in trouble following algorithm is when you stray away from that. And of course there's a ton of sliding door moments. We talk about confidence and Nkunku. I still believe that if Mbaye Niang doesn't hit the post against Barcelona, his career trajectory is wildly
The
different.
club is completely different. Yeah.
But that's my own hill to die on. But ultimately, it's players that work. I mean, we've been lucky enough to see a lot of losing seasons and a lot of winning seasons. We've had some of the best players in the world, and Gennaro Gattuso was playing in those teams day in, day out. So I totally agree with you. That stuff matters, and I'm also hesitant. I'm not sure that the club is fully understood that. I think bringing in a man like Allegri, who's always
Yeah.
been a player's coach, has helped a lot. I think bringing in an Iglitare was massive, and now let's hope that they follow their the football people advice, and see how
Because
that goes.
they did. That's, I know, I say this all the time, and it's just, I think that was so important, and why things did not work out is their indecisiveness was the number one thing that bothered me, and
Yeah,
I highlighted it on a couple of YouTube videos. It wasn't like full podcast videos where the timeline was, and this was, forget it if you wanted Thiago Motta, Fonseca, another manager, Sari, right? Milan and their decision making in whether or not to keep Stefano Pioli was hinging on winning Europa League or not, which was very stupid at the time
yeah,
because that shouldn't be your deciding factor. First and foremost, Milan should not be in Europa League. They shouldn't be playing in that competition. His failures were a large part of that. And that also has to do with Ferlani and all that other stuff because they let the technical and sporting director out the door in the same off season, in the same summer, excuse me. So where it's just Giorgio Ferlani and then promoting Moncada, who had never been in such a role like that at a very young age and what he is doing with his work. He's still in his 30s. He's very young when it comes to that sort of stuff.
yeah,
People work as scouts for years before they even get promoted to head scout. At a club like Milan, that is really difficult to do. Where my point was to everybody, it's one thing when you're Jeffrey Moncada and you come and scout and you bring a list to Paolo Maldini and Ricky Massara and you say, okay, here are the players that I think are really good. They could fit within our formation and our club. You guys make the final decision. Would Moncada's final decision be the same as Maldini and Massara's knowing what they know? The answer is no, that's not true
absolutely
because
not.
he
Yeah,
never was in a position for that. He had never failed like that. He had never been a player or working under. Ricky Massara was under Sabatini for years, learning from him at Roma and other clubs. You knew he had the experience. Maldini, sure, experience in a role like that never existed, but it's Paolo Maldini, and there's nobody that understands the club better than him. And he proved, even if he was not 100%, no director is, by the
of
way,
course. Yeah,
he was still showing that. But when you get rid of everybody, and what I was told when Zlatan came in December of that year after they sacked them, Zlatan is like, oh, I work for Redbird, but I am a director, but I'm not a director. I'm just there to help guys out. And when like I'm there, it's like, am I giving advice? Am I coaching them? What is my role? He didn't know his role. Furlani's a CEO with zero experience in football, right? Outside of like, oh well, he negotiated a couple deals for Elliott financially. Who cares?
Yeah.
Those were like financial details.
Yeah.
What made Milan so good under Gazidis, Masada, and Maldini was the chain of command that I report to Gazidis, who, if we can make a move work financially, we'll work together on that. Whereas Furlani, from what I understand and know, is he's not willing to make wiggle room like that. It's very difficult for him because he's just so concerned with having a green balance sheet that it impacts other stuff. Where Maldini, and this is the last point because I'm sorry I repeat this
No, no,
often,
not at all.
but it is the reason why Milan are where they are.
Yeah.
Is Maldini sitting there right before the first leg against Inter in the semifinal? Okay, now is where we take more risks financially, right? Milan couldn't take risk when they had FFP violations, getting kicked out of Europe. Their wage bill was really high. COVID had impacted so many clubs financially, including Serie A,
Yeah.
where they had a tiptoe on this balance wire for years. Whereas now Milan are talking about record profits. They're getting San Siro, where they're going to be getting over 9 figures in revenue boosted, which is, we know, incredible. That could change the entire outlook for the club
Yeah.
for so many years. So many years. Where, okay, say we miss, Champions League one year. Okay, we're fine because we are such a well-built foundational financial monster at this point, as opposed to when Berlusconi and Galliani had no idea how to operate in the FFP system,
Yeah.
where they were just like, ah, yeah, well, we'll throw money at it. Well, you can't throw money at it anymore because we're losing money. We're not winning. We're not making important signings in the scouting department to build off of that and grow. Milan were like, oh, Pazzini, Bacca, oh, maybe a young guy here or there. Bertolacci was like terrible. Like,
Luis
they
Adriano.
had
Yeah,
no
those names
plan.
are hilarious.
They had no plan though for
Yeah.
a long time. And what Maldini did in a 3 year span or so was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, even if it wasn't, sure, dominant team, one of the worst Serie A sides to win the Scudetto, who cares? They still did it. Like, what does it say about the other clubs who spent more money on wages? And, Roma, Napoli, Inter, Juve,
Yeah.
all four of those clubs spent more money on their squad annually.
Every single
Milan,
year. Every year.
what does everybody say about Milan? Oh, well, they signed in Kunku. They spent all that money on
Yeah.
him. They spent all this money on
Yeah.
Yashari. It's like, okay, well, they sold a midfielder for 55 million. They sold one of their best left backs ever for 25, 30 million. They missed out on Europe. They rarely spend their wage bill. And mind you, here's the important thing, right? Back in the height of, the Galliani, or the back end of the Galliani years,
Mhm.
Philip Mexes was the highest paid center back in Serie A. And in Italy, they always report the net wages. Do you remember how much he got paid at the
I
time?
don't remember exactly. No.
He was getting 4 million net per season. That was in 2011.
That's
So
crazy.
we're 14, 15 years ago. Stefano, do you know he would be the highest paid defender in this current Milan squad? No Milan defender gets paid more money per season.
That's
So if we
insane.
look at it from that perspective, Milan were paying insane top dollar all the time.
Yeah.
They restrict themselves.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. It's about wage bill and annual cost year over year.
Yeah.
Milan are not even close to Inter.
Yeah.
They're closer to Atalanta's wage
And
bill
Inter
than
should
they
be a
are.
failed club. If football wasn't the way football is, especially in Italy, and people, I hate it. I mean, you struck a nerve with this. I hate it how the discourse goes. They're like, oh my god, you spent 35 million from Kunku. They got Turam for free. Does Turam pay for free? Does he play for free?
No.
Does he have an agent that got a fat commission? Does he have wages that top easily by a lot
Every
anyone in the
player in
Milan
our
squad?
squad.
So what are we talking about? This is just moving the money around so that they can survive, because again, they can't spend money because their financial numbers are dreadful.
Because
I hate
yes,
it.
because they were just all the money that they were getting either from player sales or qualifying deeper into the UCL
Yeah.
was going to cover their debt.
Yeah.
And the
It's
only
like a
way that
Ponzi
they were
scheme.
like, and it was technically cheaper on paper for them to pay out, like, you remember Thuram almost joined Milan. The
Yeah.
reason why he didn't join Milan was because they chose not to pay. They didn't want to go to that number. The reason Hakan
Yeah.
Çalhanoğlu, Frank Cassi, all these players were leaving because Milan said, no,
Yeah.
this is our
Donnarumma.
line.
Yeah.
We make exceptions for Rafael Leao. We make exceptions for Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We made exceptions for Donnarumma. But they handicap themselves. And we know this is what gets me so angry. You can't say we have record profits, record revenue, and we have a wage bill that is cheaper than 2013 Milan.
Yeah.
That's bad. 2013 Milan,
Yeah.
they sucked. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't suck; they were okay.
Yeah, but
But
it's
like,
Pantera, and that's not exactly what we're going
but
for.
but but it's sort of like when this club finally decides to get serious, and I don't care what they spent on the net spend, they don't spend that much. Um, when they decide to take it serious, Stefano, and that's why I laughed at the Manana reports of like, oh, they want to pay him 7 million net salary base. No, they won't. They're not gonna break their records for a
So
goalkeeper
you think that's
as much
false?
as we
Because
love.
the latest report that I read, again, and it's Gazzetta, and Gazzetta is what it is that, yeah, the offer on the plate from Milan is 7. He wants 7.5 confirmed. You think that won't happen?
7.5.
Or 7? You think
I
an
don't,
agreement
I
will be
don't,
struck
I
around those
don't
figures?
think. Well, it was funny. This is where like the stupid thing is that it reminds me of Donnarumma because you remember Donnarumma was on 1 million per season,
Yeah.
and instead of just being like, okay, fine, 3 million, because you pay when you're signing a contract extension, and this is just like an example for people. When you sign a contract extension for somebody, you're paying for how good you think they will be over the next 5 years. Donnarumma, if you got him at 3 million net, the best goalkeeper, one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the world, uh, Fassone handled those negotiations terrible. Mino
Yeah.
Raiola took him from 1 million net per season to 6.5 million.
Yeah.
That's one of the highest paid players in the league.
Yeah.
Forget about goalkeepers.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he sextupled that. Magnan, Milan offered 5 million. They agreed. He goes through a poor run of form, and Forlani's like, no. He rescinded the offer. You ruin the relationship. You not only ruin the relationship with him, you make all these other players like, are they gonna do this to me? What if I agree to this, right? Like Tijani Reinders, they extended me sold. Regardless if that's like, it had to do with Europe
Mm-hmm.
and Manchester City coming, it's different. I get it. But, you know, when are Milan gonna be making an offer for like players where they said, okay, wages aren't an object for us at this point. We will pay you. We
Yeah.
think you're that good. We will give like Juventus. They don't hesitate with Vlahovic, right? They're like, oh, 70 million for this. We'll go there. Milan's sort of like 35 million here for you, 40 million for Nkunku,
I think you do
and
have to be careful though, because it is a slippery slope. I think
for some
Juventus,
for some players,
handcuffs a little bit,
absolutely.
and I love Vlahovic, and the wages. I do agree. I mean, we need to spend more, but once you start, it's hard to put the rabbit
I
back in the hat.
agree. I think my kind of point is when like for example, what I would do, and we talked about this. I am not doing 75 million for Nkunku and Santi Jimenez. In my opinion, I am taking a risk, and I am saying Napoli, what would it take for us to get Victor Osimhen from you? And we will pay you that money because we think he's too good. And if all the options are he's going off to Galatasaray, whatever, they're the only ones that are like pay his wages because he has injury history, blah blah blah. For me, it's sort of like you can go all in for a player from time to time because what's the difference in risk between Santi and Nkunku for those amounts and those totals as opposed to Victor Osimhen, who we know is the best striker in the league?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail right in the head there. The difference is the balance sheet, right? They know that, look, in Kuku we can flip around this season,
Right,
this
right,
mercato
right.
session, and not make a loss. And so this is until the stadium is done, and maybe hopefully this leadership, which is I think what they really wanted was really the stadium and all the money play that goes around it. Then hopefully maybe we'll get rid of them. But it will be that it will be players for those 20 to 35,
Right.
your Musas, all those deals, because they do well. It's Tijani Reinders and
Right.
ching
You
ching
sell.
happy. They don't do well. We flip them around. We've spread their wages over so many years. It's still a net win. I'm sure that is excellent for the balance sheet. But I don't have a euro sign on this shirt. I have a
No.
crest of
Well,
a football club
that's
that's quite ancient.
not to ramble or take any more time, but I think that the important thing is they can get away with like some of the excuses of like we really didn't generate that much because we weren't qualifying for the Champions League. I was always okay with that. When Elliot was saying we need to cut back, we can't just keep throwing money at this because then the penalties will be more severe. We had to like get banned from Europe,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a negative. So like the way they like were squad building and incrementally increasing things, that was like fine with that because
Yeah.
we know eventually you qualify for the Champions League enough, you get a little bit deeper into the Champions League. That's where your money is made. Jerry Cardinale is going to all these like business exposés and conferences saying the ecosystem. We have to like and he's right. The funny thing is like he is right, but he doesn't understand that like you actually have a sleeping juggernaut giant of a club that like truthfully, if you take more risks, you will be rewarded because it's that good of a club. Like say Milan took a risk with Osimhen, right, Stefano? That
Yeah.
he's actually incredible. He
Yeah.
is that good. He is the best striker since Zlatan. He is scoring guaranteed 20 goals a season. You know how much more money Milan are going to make? Because now they can go deeper into these games. They don't have to worry about, like, oh, how do we replace this player here? Well, we don't have to because we have our guy now. We didn't take a risk. And then it's sort of like Milan are making the knockout stages every single year. Can you imagine like if Inter were financially healthy and they were making the knockout stages every year?
Yeah.
That's why Juve dominated.
Yeah.
Because Juve were playing it smart before Cristiano Ronaldo, where
Yeah.
they own their stadium, their wage bill, they didn't get like drunken sailors where they're spending all this money. They would spend money on, oh, Pjanic, we know he's one of the best midfielders in the league, pay it. Higuain, we know how good you are, pay it. That's when they were understanding the levels that you have to leap. Inter couldn't do it because of their finances,
Yeah.
but Milan should be doing that. But I think they missed the window, so they took a couple steps back and have to
Yeah.
start again. We'll see. And I'm
Multiple
sorry for
times.
rambling.
No, no,
It's
no,
just
not at
so
all. A couple.
important.
That's his frustration. I think you're right. Maldini had us on a path, and you could see where we're going. Now it's
Yeah.
football. You can win or lose games. You can win or lose competitions. But there was an idea, and then as you said, they both get canned same day. And even with the Pioli stuff, I don't mind Pioli getting fired. I don't think he's a bad coach. He had his time. Just again, if you understood football, it's not is he good, is he bad? It's a window. Just like players, managers also have their window, and sometimes things just fall apart. Pioli was out, not officially, but everyone knew that Pioli was done
You're right,
for
right.
months. You had months to plan from a football perspective. How do we want to play football? Who do we want to hire? What's what's our ethos? And instead, no. The Mercato came. We had no idea. Then so many coaches. Then Fonseca gets thrown in, and then and,
Fonseca
and
was
those
like,
are not
yeah,
just blocking the timeline. Those are, as you said, steps back every time, and
because
it's just
because it was
brutal.
just stupid squad planning. Because if you don't know who your manager is, they took. I think he got hired at the end of June.
Yeah,
So like in the modern day with all these clubs, they hire and they get things that like right like Juve it didn't work out with Malta, but they locked him in.
yeah,
They knew it. When Milan are sitting there like, oh, we have to wait till May to know what we're gonna do. That's stupid.
yeah,
And the only time that they did take the time to have a manager's name that was out there, we all knew thousands of people signed a petition to say no to Julian Lopetegui. They didn't want him. They
yeah,
were making signs
yeah,
saying no Lopetegui
yeah,
because they had no desire or
yeah,
interest to hire
yeah,
someone that they knew would suck.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the problem. And that's why I wanted Allegri. Even last year, I was tweeting about it. I was like, hey, you know what? Just get somebody that's a guarantee at this point
yeah.
because we keep on taking risks with the manager now. We
And
saw what happened
understands what
last year.
Milan is. Also, the Portuguese duo struggle with that a lot.
Conceição, I think, would have been better to hire prior to the season, but I think his personality and the way he has his outbursts, you can't do that at Milan.
Yeah,
That's
it
something I
doesn't
think I
work. Yeah,
overlooked because people at Porto were saying he's amazing, he gets results, he's winning,
yeah,
but he's his own worst enemy.
yeah,
He's making enemies with players, the media, higher
yeah.
ups at the club.
But you
Eh,
can have an
You
iron
know,
fist when you're a Porto. No disrespect to Porto, it's just a different
right,
setup
exactly.
in Milan that
Big
doesn't
fish,
fly.
small pond kind of person
Yeah,
where you could get away with it at Porto. It's why Giampaolo failed miserably. He fell on
yeah,
his face.
yeah,
No personality, no great man management skills,
yeah,
mediocre tactics at
yeah,
best. Who he couldn't would refuse to use any of the signings that he was given.
yeah,
Um, that's yeah, it matters. So
yeah.
that's a whole thing.
No, no. Fully agreed. And also, yeah, just yeah. I'll get on to another rant. So we'll
I'm
have to catch
sorry.
up with
Yeah.
the chat real quick, and then we can talk about Cagliari. Nkuku's movement within the box has been really good. Agreed. Martino mentioned it. That tap in is a tap in, but it requires a certain level of understanding of the game and being switched on. Something that we need desperately because we don't have that true striker. Colin Bouchard, squad depth is so crucial. Agreed. And Milan is absolute dead in the water right now with that. We have our midfield is covered absolutely, and everyone keeps talking about, oh, but you have one competition, but you have one competition. Our squad is too thin for one competition. We have 3 center backs that we can currently rely on, and we say that bite us in the behind. Bartesaghi was found money, otherwise we would have trouble on the left wing. There's no one to sub for poor Salemakers. Rafa Leao and Pulisic have started one game together, and I'll get your opinion about those injuries because I see a lot of very poor communication from Milan, but we'll talk about that in a second when we get to Cagliari. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the being disappointed in January because we could probably use 3 to 4 signing. We'll probably get full Krug +1. Paola Seven Rossonera, solo in inglese o anche un po' in italiano. Unfortunately, English speaking for now. We'll see down the line if we'll do some Italian. This I'll read, but I don't want Martino to even...
I know, I saw it already. It's okay.
I don't even want you to dignify this. Martino, why do you get so rage baited on Israel on Twitter? Alexandra, I'm sure that you and your 7 followers have an easier time ignoring the one tweet that you get. When you get 10,000 tweets, and also part of your job and your hobby is to interact with them.
That's the problem. You try and have serious conversation on the platform,
yeah,
and then like these people that do it, they're sometimes serious. So like I try and take everyone seriously at first because that's just like what I try to do with work and my job.
Yeah.
But when you start acting stupid to me, with my personality, I am like Gattuso. You say something stupid to me, I'm gonna let you have it because you deserve it, because that's the way you're acting. But I'm much better now than I used to be.
And again, the scale from the outside, people see, oh my god, why did he reply to this stupid comment? I
get a lot of them.
Yeah,
I get a lot.
He replies to 0.1%. You should see the ones that are unread and unreplied to.
Thank you for understanding. But no, I should do better. I don't advise people to do what I do sometimes. But I will say, I do think the problem with a lot of stuff, especially social media, and Pulisic had to say this, you have to tell people to shut up sometimes, and because it's just not normal. And these are also people sometimes too that like try to personally know me.
Yeah.
So like if you want to be like, if Stefano, him and I have like a good rapport, we're friendly. If he's, or vice versa, right? If I'm an asshole to him, he's an asshole to me. He has every right to be rude, because if you're being nice to me and then acting like an ass, then you deserve comments.
Yeah. You play with fire, you get burnt.
Yes, exactly.
And last but not least, Carlo says the time Milan did not hire Thuram, spent 120 million into Mercato. It was not a cost-driven decision. Milan did not like the poker game played by Thuram and his agent. I think there's a little bit of a that doesn't make sense, that because if you're saying they didn't like the poker game played by the agent, that's inherently financial and cost-driven. The agents did not just want a gold medal.
It's not like Xerxes where they're like, oh, we like Kia Juberachian or however you say his name was like, I want 12 million euro for me on top of paying all this. The agent commissions are out of control in the sport. That's why FIFA's trying to have like a percent in America, for example, right? Agents can't make more than like 2% off of a deal or a contract, because listen, their job's not easy. They're negotiating with clubs. They're working for their clients. They want some financial compensation. Sure. You do not deserve 10 million euro.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You don't deserve $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't even think
no middleman should.
You're enough to get 100,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was financial with Thuram, because it came down to them drawing the line at, we have this line of 6 million per season. If you want more than that, then sorry, there's the door. You can go accept Inter's offer. Inter will pay more. These were always financially driven. It always is going to be, because if it wasn't, then Thuram is at Milan. That's simple. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Sure. Like they don't like the games that they play. Why don't they like the games that they play? Because they want more money.
Yeah.
Which means what? It's financial.
Yeah.
It's always financial.
Exactly.
You can't get caught off guard in the transfer market where agents are wanting money. I know we're not the Premier League. We're not Manchester City, where, what's 5 million given there? We can make up for it. We have so much money. Milan don't, right? And the owners aren't willing to inject capital all the time. So yeah, listen, do I want it to be that way? No. Is it? Yes.
Yeah, no, fully agreed. Although I understand the point. We did spend a lot of money. That was also we're trying to replace Tonali. Fair point, fair comment. But yeah, I mean, it is inherently financial. We've been going for a long time, so we'll keep this very brief. But on the screen right now for everyone is our next game. We do play January 2nd. We're back on the 8:45 p.m. Italian time slot. After New Year's, hopefully our players don't celebrate too much. I said we were going to talk about it. It looks like Leao won't, or at least will be doubtful for this game. We'll see if he makes it or not.
Correct.
Allegri talked about Pulisic not being fully healthy and still managing his injury. He's talked about Leao, struggling to accelerate, and that's been going on since the beginning of the season now. There's a few, the whole mess with Santi and this playing through injury, and then an injury there's no injury. He should play. The ankle is fine. Now there's a surgery, but it's a cleanup surgery. What do you make of this a little bit confusing communication? Obviously, you don't have to, as a club, always, air out the dirty laundry and give details. But every week it seems like we, with these three, and specifically now with Pulisic and Leao, are trying to figure out if they play, if they don't play. Are they playing 100%? Are they playing 70%?
Right. It's difficult because they don't want to tip their hand with the cards that they have to their chest. So, you can't air out all dirty laundry. I think the one that bothered me the most is the Santi one.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have this guy playing all these games and then all of a sudden he's hurt. And then he's hurt. He just needs to play off of it or stay off of it. Then he needs surgery. And then to your point, he needs cleanup surgery. So it was so bad and so unbearable that he waited this long. When did this injury occur? I think them not addressing that was the problem, not the fact that he was hurt. Yeah. Leao, I get it. He's trying, and they're trying to they can't wait for them to be 100% because they're so thin. So even Pulisic, he's playing through something a little bit. That's why he's getting subbed off. You could see it physically. When Leao isn't able to carry the ball 60 yards, he's hurt. If Pulisic is not having that same sort of acceleration, that leads you to believe he's carrying something.
Yeah.
But they're still able enough to play. There's a saying over here in America. I'm not really sure if they do in Europe, but there's a difference between being hurt and injured. Those are two different things. I could be hurt. I could be banged up. My ankles are sore. My quads are a little sore. There's muscle fatigue. Or I could be injured. I tore something. I literally cannot walk on it. There's a big difference. I think some of these players at Milan right now are injured. Pulisic seems he's hurt.
Yeah.
And he's trying to play through that. It's a pain tolerance thing. I mean, listen, it's annoying. We play once a week. We still have an injury crisis. It's impossible.
Yeah.
We're not obviously having tons of depth up top and behind with the center backs. We talked about it. We're we're one center back injury away from, who's playing left center back. Is it Estupinian? Is it Bartesaghi? Is it, we're seeing Connie De Winter getting tossed into a position he's never really played.
Got the odd sighting, but I don't.
Congratulations to him, which I'm happy for him. But he's 19. He doesn't know anything. So yeah, it's just, to me with Milan, it's just annoying. I'm tired of it. It feels like other clubs to this extent, playing once a week, who has this amount of injuries, and they're not even their fault. They came back from international break hurt.
Yeah, that's always been brutal for us.
A month. How are we supposed to how's this our fault? We don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I just want them to get back at 100% for the home stretch of at least February and beyond. Because right now, February is sort of where it looks like we could be fully healthy in the attacking department because of Santi. The other stuff, I don't know, bro. It's annoying. We don't know until the morning of. I thought Fofana was back to 100% by now. Doesn't seem like it.
I mean, Leao traveled to Saudi and then doesn't get called up for that game.
I think he would only have played maybe in the Supercopa final for a final, right?
I mean, agreed, but it's crazy to be called up for that, assuming that he's going to get some use, even if it's off the bench 30 minutes in the second game, to then not being called up to the this game.
It could be PR traveling internationally. You want your biggest name
maybe
there.
That's
probably the only thing.
Side deals also with the Saudi, probably the same way.
I agree with you, though.
Yeah, Modric maybe comes in, but let's hope that they will come back in February, because the calendar looks okay for now, but it gets pretty thick with midweek games as well. But I think the formation will be roughly similar. We'll see. Obviously, if Gabbia makes it, he'll slot in for the winter. Fofana might challenge Loftus-Cheek if he makes it, and obviously Rafa. will take Nkunku's spot if he makes it. This is a Cagliari team that's doing okay. They're 14th. Again, the relegation zone is fascinating in Italy. I think they will manage to save themselves with somewhat ease, but they're still in those positions. They won against Torino last, tied against Pisa, and before that lost to Atalanta, which is all results on par for them. We always ask Oscar, and a lot of times he's done well, but give me a little prediction. What do you think?
Oh, jeez. Prediction. This one's away. Nicola
Yeah.
and Cagliari. This was the craziest fixture last season. I believe it was 3-3 away. Camarda started this one. I could be wrong.
I believe so.
I
I
think
think you are
if
right.
you remember, yeah, I don't know. I know you could pull up the head to head
Yeah.
over there maybe,
Let's
but
see. Yeah, you're right.
I'm almost certain that
Yeah,
we
3-3 in Cagliari. Yeah,
yeah. So that one
and
was
in Milan
crazy.
5-1. I almost forgot about that game almost
Yeah,
altogether.
the
Hilarious.
3-3 one was insane. It was I think we were down 2 or 3 nothing, and then we came back.
Yeah, we conceded in the second minute, and then we were winning, and then 89th minute Zappa equalizes.
That's what it
This
was. Yeah, there
momentum
you go.
chart, I think the stream sees it, is freaking wild.
Insane. So yeah, to me, Nicola and Cagliari, they're so annoying. Um, I think 1-0 if we win. I this is the annoying thing about this club is that I can't easily say, oh yeah, we could do a good job of winning this one. It still seems like we're gonna be thin up top. Full crew should be able to start. Oh, not start. Sorry, feature.
Yeah,
Probably off the bench because he'll be eligible since it's January. They
correct.
have immediate contract depositing, so he is registered. So maybe him off the bench, I think, could provide something in terms of dead ball opportunities.
Okay,
Caprile is somebody who's already linked to us for next year if Magnan were to leave.
true.
He's a very strong goalkeeper. Take our chances is what it's going to come down to.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll particularly dominate this game because of just the nature and how we play against sides like this. But if we come away with 3 points away to Cagliari, I think it's huge. I think it honestly is one of the more difficult fixtures with Nicola. Nicola is an annoying manager to go up against
yeah,
because the forever thing with Cagliari, by the way, really quick, that is burned in my brain forever, and I'm sure you are too with this. All we had to do to qualify for the Champions League for the first time in years was beat that Cagliari side
yeah,
that had avoided relegation
yeah,
because of whoever got relegated earlier that day. Donnarumma was sensational that game. That was
yeah,
one of his best games, and evidently one of his last ones. Um, yeah, I'm never confident playing them. Is my point. So
yeah.
I'm hoping. I'll take a 1-0. I don't care how it happens. Just get 3 points. But I'll go 1-0.
Uh,
And Pulisic
did I
again.
sense Pulisic scored? I thought you were gonna say Fulkrug. I was like, ooh, okay, you're
Oh
dropping the
no,
real
no, that
spicy
would be
take.
bold. That would be bold.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Cagliari is not too dissimilar. I think a better level than Hellas. But some interesting players. Caprile is excellent. Cagliari, I think, ranks first or second in Serie A for saves per match. He does very well. And there's some interesting players. Luperto's not a bad. Palestra, I think we'll see in a top Italian club next season. He's doing
Right.
great.
I've heard nothing but incredible things about this player. I've yet to see him. But I hear he's like the next big right-sided defender, right wing back, right center
Yeah.
or fullback. Sorry. Is he that good? Like I haven't. I hear it's
I
just
mean, my
Atalanta owns him, I believe, right?
yes, that's correct. Yeah, my sample size is quite small. I have watched a few games of his, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert. He's quite good. He's very offensive. We'll see him go up against Bartesaghi. Bartesaghi is much more defensive as a fullback. He's very offensive. Can also play uh, as a midfielder or winger. And he's one of the rare players that in Italy and in Serie A looks to dribble and take his men on one. So that's always refreshing, and especially for our national team. But we'll see how he does against our Wonder Boy. Prediction, yeah, it's tough. I think do they score a lot? I don't know. It's tough. We gave away such silly goals that it's so tough to say.
Right.
So many games we should have had a clean sheet and we
I'm
throw it
I'm
away.
less confident if Gabia isn't in there. I hope
Yeah,
the winter can hopefully do something with that. Again, this is a midfield matchup. Luperto is like a relatively respectable player, by the
yeah,
way, too, at the back for them. The rest I'm relatively unfamiliar with, but it's stylistically the environment, the club that they know they were going up against. Again, I think Milan and dead ball opportunities have to thrive here.
yeah,
They have to do well off of that. It's okay to take your corners. Not all the time that we have to have like Chris Bartezaki crosses. Um, let's see. Let's see. I hope we can, because again, this is on Friday. So if we start off the weekend on a good foot,
yeah.
we put the
Put some
pressure back
pressure.
on those other clubs, because also in a couple weeks Napoli have to really focus on making the knockout stages.
Yeah,
Same goes
Inter
for
too.
Inter trying to finish top 8. I believe they have Dortmund and Arsenal.
Arsenal, yeah, it's tough. If
So
we
they
can
have
if we
really
can manage to make sure that both of them have those extra 2 games, with the fact that in Coppa Italia they're going to be playing a lot more minutes than we do.
because this is also the end of the first half of the year as well for
Yeah,
Milan. So we did great beating all the top sides. We have to accumulate the wins against
yeah,
these sides. Otherwise, we won't win the
yeah,
title. You kiss it goodbye when you keep doing stuff like that.
yeah. No, fully agreed. Yeah, with Gabbia, I'd say Gabbia plays, hopefully, and we keep the clean sheet. I agree with you. Pulisic will score because the man always finds a way. And give me Christopher Nkuku to continue his streak. 2-0,
Okay.
and we take that home. I can't thank you enough for filling in the big shoes left by Oscar. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Obviously, go follow Martino. All his links in the description. Go watch the Milan podcast. It is always excellent to watch, whether you're celebrating a Milan win or sulking over some points dropped. There's no better way to do it than with Martino, Matt, and,
Thank
and,
you.
and the
Thank you.
boys. And as always, Forza Milan.
Thank you.